Hi everyone, today I wanted to talk about different whites and what is the best white to use depending on the painting you're doing and what is the main difference. And while there are quite a few pigments that can be used to make white paint, not all of them are still commonly used, and probably the white color you always see, it is a titanium white. For example, I have here the Winsor Newton one, professional line, and it is the most common white color we can find. If you're buying a set of paints, there will be titanium white. If you're just looking for white and it says white, it's probably meant to be titanium white. But sometimes you may also see a mixing white in the store. So I wanted to talk about the difference between the two and when it's best to use one or another. And probably you may have already noticed a big difference because it's written right here. Mixing white, contrary to the titanium white, is semi-opaque or very often like semi-transparent, while titanium white normally in acrylic and gouache is fully opaque. Now there are brands in which whites will be like more transparent, but generally white is very opaque, and generally titanium white is what we will add if we want to make a color look more opaque. We either will mix titanium white with this color, or we're gonna make a layer of this color and then a second layer of a more transparent color that we want to intensify opacity. And the titanium white is a very strong white. It's white. So sometimes when you're mixing colors, it can be too opaque because, again, we said this one is opaque, or it can become too light because by adding white, and a very strong white which is opaque, we also bringing the value of the color we're using down, so the color becomes lighter and lighter and lighter, and that is not always what we want to do. So in that case we are using mixing white. And if we will go back to the composition, while they're both whites, the titanium white, you will see it on professional paints, is pigment is PW6. It is a titanium white pigment, titanium dioxide. But for the mixing white, normally they use zinc. Sometimes it also can be zinc white. They may use the same pigment, and that is pigment PW4. If it is a student grade paint like this one, it will not mention the pigment used, but generally the mixing white is the zinc white or PW4. And now I have black paper to show you just the difference between those two whites, and then I will show you how they look when we mix colors, and to see if you can spot the difference and see which one is best for you to use. So I'm gonna wet a little bit the brush just to make it easier, and because we're not normally using a very thick layers with acrylic anyway. So first let's see the titanium white. As you can see, it's a quiet and opaque color, and the coverage is really nice even over a black paint. Now let's see the mixing white, the zinc white. I will try also to make the same not very thick layer, and as you can see, it is really transparent, not completely, like semi-transparent or semi-opaque if we're gonna use it in a few layers, but compared to titanium white, those are two different whites. And again, also, if you're looking to use a really transparent white in your painting, you can go ahead and buy mixing white instead of buying the titanium white, which is really opaque. And now let's see if they can bring the opacity the same way, because as I said, we often use white layer as a base layer to later add different color to make that color more opaque. And I'm gonna do just the 2 layers of white, different whites. I let them dry, and over them I will use another normally quite transparent color, which is yellow. So this is a yellow without any white layer underneath it, just yellow over black paper. And I just use black paper for convenience. In painting, it can be darker background, not necessarily black. It can be just darker color, dark green, dark red, dark purple, black, dark gray, dark blue, whatever, just darker color. And as we can see, yellow is naturally a transparent color, or semi-transparent depending on the brand and the grade of the paint. But let's see how mixing white versus titanium white will act as a opacifying layer. First I'm trying over titanium white, and as you can see, it's a very nice bright color, and this is a warm yellow, cadmium yellow, so it does not lose the temperature. It stays warm, very nice. And compared to these two, it looks like two different colors, right? But though they're the same colors. And now let's see the zinc white, or mixing white, and it does intensify it a little bit, but not as much as titanium white. So those goes like grades: very transparent, semi-transparent, semi-opaque, and quite opaque. So if we're looking to opacify a color, to make a color more opaque, we're gonna use titanium white, not mixing white. Now let's go and mix a color, and also see if we're mixing in with white, which white will gonna lighten up the color more. First, let's do just one color, because we often use whites to lighten up colors. And for example, red, we have just red, straight red with a wet brush, and it is also a warm red, cadmium red. On the camera it may look different, like a little bit brighter. That's just how cameras see the colors. But I'm just saying, yeah, you can see this is a cadmium red, medium, same Winsor Newton. And if we add a little bit of titanium white, let's see what happens to the mix. So we're not mixing yet like two different colors plus white, we're just mixing the red with white to technically make pink, right? And that is a warm pink. I quickly added the sign, so it's just easier for you to see. Now let's do the same, but with mixing white, or zinc white. And so you don't think that I am lying, I'm adding quite a lot of white, and I already added this zinc white to this mix. And as you can see, the two of them are already very different. So the mixing white with red looks like this. And again, on camera it looks brighter than it looks in real life, but we can still see the difference between titanium white, which makes the color opaque, because this pink looks more opaque than the red initial, but it also brings down the value or makes the color lighter. Value refers to how dark or light the color is. But when we're using mixing white, it just a little bit brings the lightness down, just a little bit. So we will not be able to get the very distinctive pink if we're gonna use that white with red, or same with other colors that we want to lighten up. We will not gonna succeed even if we add a lot of mix in white, because that's what's going to happen. And let me just try and show you closer that, so the colors are a little bit different. So that is the initial red, the pink with the pink red that we use cadmium red and titanium white, and cadmium red with mixing white, which looks not really different from just red. Now let's see if we're mixing two colors. For example, I want to use I want to get orange, so I will get a red and a yellow. I need more yellow. And those are just two colors without white. and that is the orange we get. Now, if we're mixing it with titanium white, we're gonna get again a very, very light, like a peach beige color. But let's see what happens if we are adding the zinc white to it. It gets lighter. It gets lighter, but it does not become more opaque like this color. So here the difference is much more visible when just one color, when the mixing white doesn't bring lightness. When you're mixing two colors, it does bring lightness, but it leaves the color transparent as the two initial colors were, and it does not add this like pastel kind of chalky, a little bit gouache feel to it like titanium white does. So it tells us what you can expect when you're using titanium white in your mix or when you're using mixing white. So if you want a more like gouache, like illustration alike look and much lighter color, you go ahead and use titanium white. If you want to do an opaque layer and or make a color opaque, use titanium white. If you want a transparent white, use mixing white. If you want to just somehow dilute the color but not too much, a single color, use mixing white. If you're mixing two or more colors and you want to bring the value, the lightness a little bit higher, make the color lighter, but you don't want to have this color opaque, use mixing white. I hope that was informative and helpful, and that's how you're gonna use mixing white or titanium white. Let me know in the comments if you knew about this difference or if this is helpful, and thank you for watching.